The only way to understand a river is to jump into it.
Well, nowadays you don't have to really do that. Just sit in front of your computer and watch this full tutorial. But you can jump if you want. Let's get started. Alright, so let's go to Edit, Preferences, and in Add-ons, let's search for Landscape and check this Ant Landscape add-on. Now go to Add, Mesh, Landscape. In this drop down, let's change the preset to River. Now if you have decided the camera angle as I have mine, I will keep on changing the random seed value until I like one. Okay, so I like this one which has 9 random seed value because the river leads to the center of the screen towards the mountains. For more details, I will increase the landscape subdivisions to 300. Now you can see that the landscape is only 2 meters in size. In actual, it should be 2 kilometers. So don't change the dimension, instead we will multiply the scale by 100. Now you can press the period key to view the object. Now I will add in a human to check the real life scale. You can add in a 2 meter cube as well. Okay, so I guess it's almost perfect for our human. But don't forget that reference has always been the key for me. You can see I have collected many similar references from different angles, different time of day and height. Now I will align my view and now let's add in a camera. Now press Ctrl Alt and 0 to bring our camera to view. Now let's adjust it a bit. I will also change the focal length to 35mm to have some depth in my scene. And here is the comparison of different focal lengths. Lower focal length gives depth and larger focal length makes everything flat. So choose it depending upon your choice. I will also bring the water up a bit. Now before we add materials to the landscape, let's unwrap it. Okay, now let's go to shading and let's turn on an add-on called Node Wrangler. Now select the principal BSDF and press Ctrl Shift T and select the textures you want. And select Principal Texture Setup. Now I will duplicate the principal BSDF 2 more times and I will add a forest floor material and another ground material. Alright, let's unplug the displacement for now. Now hold down the Ctrl Shift and right mouse button to mix the two shaders. For the factor, add a noise texture and a color ramp node and plug it into the factor. Now tweak the settings. Here you can see the black is forest floor and white is grass. Now let's duplicate those nodes and let's mix the second and the third principal shader. And tweak the settings. Now let's increase the scale of the textures relatively to the scale of the human. So I guess 25 is correct for me and I will do the same for others as well. Now let's change the render engine to cycles and uncheck scene world to view with different lighting. Now in the similar manner, let's mix the displacement shader and plug it into the displacement. Now change the mode from mix to multiply and decrease the scale of displacement. Now mix the third displacement and mix node and set it to multiply as well. Now we have a complete ground material. Now let's extrude the water plane to create the gorgeous water material many of you asked for. But before that, check the face orientation. If it's red, the material won't work. So to fix that, press Shift N. And now let's go to shading. So let's add a principal volume node and plug it into the volume. Let's unplug the principal BSDF for now and decrease the density to let's say 0.07. And I will set the color to a bit of turquoise color. Also turn on denoising and decrease the noise threshold to better view the material. Now plug back the principal BSDF and bump up the transmission value and lower the roughness to 0.1 and decrease the alpha to 0.5 or 0.6 and some color change, and that's it. Now it's just matter of changing the color of both BSDF and volume. Now to create ripples in water, add a bump node and add a noise texture. Now you can press Ctrl B to select a region to render. and increase the scale and details. To make ripples very subtle, decrease the bump strength to a lower number like 0.1 and tweak some settings to get better results. I have made a specific tutorial on how to make trees like this in Blender, so you can watch that. But in this tutorial I will be using trees from Botanic add-on. So if you don't have any add-on, you can make trees like this, so please watch that video. Okay, so we are going to scatter the trees with geometry nodes, so let's do some wet painting. But before that, go to edit mode and turn on X-ray and select the area which only appears in camera. And then add a vertex group. Now go to wet paint and set the weight to 0 and erase the area in the river and a bit along the coast. I will also erase this portion which will not appear in camera and is very far away. Do check it from the camera view, and I advise you to take some time in this process. Now I will add 4 coniferous trees from Botanic add-on. Now let's disable the collection and let's go to Geometry Nodes tab. And don't worry, geometry nodes are not that hard. We just have to add 3 nodes. So distribute points on faces and always keep the number lower, or sometimes it adds ridiculous amount of trees that crash Blender. Now add instances on points and check pick instance. The last, join geometry node. Now drag our tree collection into the node editor and plug it into the instances. Also check reset children and separate children. Now try to increase the density and scale. Okay, oops, these are really huge, so let's scale them down. So a scale of 0.01 looks great, and let's increase the density. Now let's add a math node to control the density with the weight map and set it to multiply. Now click this button which is kind of like a ribbon, and then click this empty space to select our weight map, which is this group. Then plug the group input into the value, and now you can control the density within our specified area. Now my scene is getting very heavy, so now I will tell you a cool hack. Select all the trees in the collection and then go to object properties and viewport display. Now while holding the Alt button, set that to bounds. Now my viewport performance is much better, and now I can add thousands and even millions of trees in my scene. Now I will quickly tweak my weight maps to my liking until I am satisfied. Okay, so now it's good. Now I don't want the trees to obstruct my camera, so I will erase the portion which is in front of it. Now let's plug the input into the seed as well, and now we are going to change the seed to see which seed gives the best result. They are looking pretty uniform, so let's add a random value node and plug it into the scale. Same for the rotation, but here I will change the type from float to vector and set the x and y to 0 and z to 360. Now I will keep on changing the seed value and see you after some time. Okay, after a very long time, the value of 19 works best for me, and it was really time consuming. Now it's time to scatter some grass, and you can find high quality grass on Polyheaven. And to show that, I am going to do the exact same. So I am using this grass one, and don't worry, you will get the link in the description. So download the blend file. Now go to File, Append, and select the blend file. And in the objects, let's select all objects by pressing A. Now you will see here different LODs, so except LOD 0, I will delete everything because LOD 0 is the highest quality, and also delete the sphere with grass. Now let's draw a weight map for grass as well. And I will duplicate the tree geometry node group, and I will just replace it with grass and just increase the scale. In case if you want to take a look at my node group, it looks like this. Now let's add another landscape, and now you can add pretty much anything, but I will add mounts because it's just a displaced plane. Now we need to move that very far because you can see in the reference the trees are looking very small and even have some sort of distance fog as well. So scale it up to a considerable amount. Now go to edit mode and turn on X-ray, and now only select those vertices which are only visible between the trees and add a vertex group. Now I will add this tree which I have made in that tutorial because it's quite a bit low poly. And using the same geometry node group you can scatter these trees as well. Just don't forget to add a material to the land. Now let's add a giant cube covering everything, and you guessed it right, it will be our distance fog. So add a new material and remove the principal BSDF and add a principal volume and set the density to a way lower value. And I will give it a slightly blue color. If you want to control the density better, you can add in a math node to the density and multiply with a way lower number. Then you will be able to control with larger value from outside. Now to make the mountains, I will be using some free displacement maps from this website, and it will be in the description. Now in Blender, just add a plane, and it will be better if we subdivide it first. So right click and subdivide 100 times and add a displace modifier. Now let's open up our displacement map, and I am using this variation 3, but feel free to use any. Now you can add a subdivision modifier on top of the displace modifier to add more depth and increase the strain to increase the height, and set the mid level to 0. Let's make it enormously big and delete some vertices which are useless and place it at the back. For texturing, it's so much of a hassle, so you can copy my node group and you can pause to see it. I will place 3 mountains in the back. Nice. Now it's time to find a background image. So I went to pexels.com and I have spent half an hour to get the best sky images that will also match our lighting. So I came up with 3 images and I like this one. And for the lighting, it's only a sky texture. If you don't know where it is, you can find it in the world settings, and then click this yellow dot and select sky texture. And these are my settings. Now for the image, go to add image, images as planes. If you don't have this option, turn it on from add-ons. Now let's select the image you have downloaded and put it way back and scale it up as well. Now the image might look dull, so plug the image color into the emission color. And I have found that while making this tutorial, decreasing the roughness all the way down and increasing the metallic value all the way up gives a great contrast, so I did that. Now let's do the camera animation. So I have given a link in the description for Camera Shakify add-on. So download that and then go to install and then select the file you have downloaded. Now you can see the camera has some cool presets in it. I will be using this wedding one because it is very nice and subtle, and you can lower the influence to lower its effect. Now let's add a zooming animation. So let's select our camera and press I, location and rotation. Now go on whatever frame you want and then press G and Z twice to move forward. And I will also move it down and press I, location and rotation. Now you can see our camera is animating, but by default in Blender the animation is set to Bezier, which means that it will start slow and gets fast in the middle and slow down at the end. So press A to select all the keyframes and then right click and set the interpolation to linear. Now let's add animation to the water. So let's go to our water material and set the noise texture to 4D. And now you can change the 4D value and you can see that the ripples are moving. So let's bring our timeline here, and on the first frame with the noise texture selected, hover on W and press I. Now change the value just a bit, like 0.1, and press I again and set this to linear as well. Now add a huge plane and block the light coming towards the mountain. Now add a material and plug the noise texture into the alpha and set the noise texture to 4D. Now add a color ramp to tweak it, and I hope you guessed it, it's fake cloud shadow. Now you can change the 4D value to get different results, and same for the foreground as well. Now you can also animate the 4D value of clouds as well. Now let's bring everything together, and for the render settings I will render it at 500 samples and set the denoiser to optics if you have NVIDIA graphics card. I will leave everything else to default and then press F12 to render. So that's it guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you do, consider subscribing to this channel and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.